The meeting to order. This is the Village of Lake Bluff Architectural Board Review, regular meeting, February 1st, 2022. I'd like to welcome our two new members, Art Cottrell and Scott Dreidorf, to the board, and also recognize the work of Julie Weimeyer, who has just resigned from the board, and actually Ed Deegan, who resigned from the board some time ago. Both of those were valuable assets to the ABR. And so given that little intro, Mike, let's call the order or call the roll.
Okay. Member Callahan.
Here.
Member Dahlman.
Here.
Member Dittmer.
Here.
Member Kerouac.
Here.
Member Cottrell.
Here.
Member Stradiff.
Here.
And let's see, and obviously Chair Hunter is here.
Here.
Did I skip anybody? I was looking at the Zoom list, and it moves around as people talk.
I think you got everybody.
I think I got everybody too. Okay, great to have full attendance for a meeting.
Okay, well, let's move along then. So we've got the consideration of the December 7th ABR meetings. Anybody have any comments or corrections or jokes?
I have no comments. I move the minutes be approved.
Okay, second on that?
Second.
All right, Mike, roll call?
Okay. Sure. Member Callahan. I'm sorry, what's that? Was that an aye?
Yeah, it's an aye.
Okay. Member Cottrell.
Aye.
Member Stradiff.
Aye.
Member Dahlman.
Yes.
Member Kerouac.
Aye.
Member Dittmer.
Aye.
And Chair Hunter.
All right,
And just for the benefit of our new members, when we're in person, most of these motions can be done as a voice vote altogether, but virtually, the state says we have to do an individual roll call for all of them. Just FYI, that's why we're doing that.
okay, so following along our normal agenda, is there any non-agenda items, Mike, that we need to address? Anybody bringing anything up?
No, there's no one here in person. In our virtually, we only have our applicant for the first agenda item. So I think there is no one here for non-agenda items.
Okay, then we'll just move on to the sign permit application for Innovasi Restaurant and et cetera on Center Avenue. And John is there.
Yep,
They're
he
online.
is.
I
Go
am.
ahead,
Good evening,
John.
everybody.
Hi, John.
How are you?
Okay, so you know what to do. Give us your pitch.
Following Prairie Espresso's application approval, I think last month or the month before, we actually thought it was a really great idea, and it had a good look for the side of the building and the street. It's up right now, and it looks fantastic. So we looked at maybe we could do something similar for our various businesses around the block there, with the goal of having something that looks better than it does now, can alert consumers and bypassers, and help get the kind of plastic A-frames off the street, which this would do at least for all of our places. We would remove the ones we have now. So we went to the same company based here in Lake Bluff, and we had the same size signs drawn up with similar materials, so that the building has a nice natural look and flow to it, and all of the blade signs all look the same. And then the one thing that's addition to the blade signs is a small vinyl addition to the center window ad that we have right now at the bike shop and at Bonk. We're actually going to use the bike shop for pickup and delivery of a new pizza place that we're building in our catering kitchen at Innovazi. So we got that included with it. So we've got a number of different changes, but all things that we hope will make the building look nicer.
Okay. All right, who wants to start with the comments? I'm not gonna, Neil, you like to start.
I like what they've done, and I'd also like to compliment the way Prairie turned out. When they first started that, I was concerned about all the black color when the rest of the building is, and frankly, I think it turned out quite nice. But back as far as these signs are concerned, I think that there will be an improvement, and I think that they're quite well thought out and will be well done. That's it.
Somebody else want to jump in?
I'll jump in. So as you know, I was the architect for Prairie Bar and Cafe. So just want to put that out there. I just want to make sure that that's out there for the record. And, these comments are based solely on my board review and not as anything tied to Prairie, though we are proud of what John has done with that. And it is very refreshing to see that aesthetic, I think, in the downtown area. And since we've approved that, we definitely have set precedents for the blade signs. And I think if they're done correctly, I think it will add to the streetscape. The concern I have, though, is the way that it's presented and the way that it's going to be in reality are two separate things. On 77 East Scranton, they're wanting to have a sign on the left side of the storefront and then on the right side. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to have, these 3 blade signs within 30 feet, and they're not really denoting where the business is. What I would recommend is a single blade sign, either over the main entry to 77 East Scranton or one over the center of the windows, but not to have a pair of blade signs on either side of that storefront. I think that's going to just create an onslaught of, if any more businesses are added to that storefront, are they adding more on? I think we should limit, this is a new signage for the downtown, but we should limit that to 1 blade sign per address, just so to kind of keep the streetscape clean. I think what Prairie did, it has a nice subtlety to it, and I think that's what adds to its success. And I would, want to make sure that we're not all of a sudden 20 blade signs, along the storefronts. I think the idea is not just all of a sudden start a whole onslaught of blade signs, but at least maintain the aesthetics of what the village requires. So I would recommend a single blade sign for 77 East Scranton. And then the positions of the other ones, I think, are in an existing location, I believe. I think it'd be nice to have them all at the same height going through the building. But if we feel that maintaining the existing location is fine over there, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Okay, who else?
I definitely understand the idea of not having too many of them down the street. I agree that 20 of them would obviously be way overkill. I do think if we put all three businesses on one sign, it's going to be very difficult for people to actually see what's written on them. They're going to have to shrink down the size of the things a lot. What if we separated them more, maybe had one kind of above one of the windows and one above the doorway, so there was a good 30 to 40 feet in between the signs, so it breaks up, the size of them a little bit more. With that, if that is something that's a little more acceptable. And then as far as the height goes, as the street, pitches down, we try to kind of stay with the pitch of the street. If we kept them at literally the same height, then those signs towards the east end would be, up in the close to the upper third of the building around that side. So we try to kind of keep them lined up with the same height off the street, so as the street pitches, the signs kind of gently cascade down with it.
Sure.
Who's got another comment? Sheree?
I think the point about too many signs is a good one. And also the point about consistent relative to the door, to the storefront, so that the signs will follow the street. Both good points.
Okay.
John, I've got a question. I think it's a handsome sign. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you speak to the durability of these signs? Are they wrought iron? Are they powder coated?
They're 3 millimeter thick aluminum,
Okay.
and the brackets are powder coated steel.
Okay. Good.
So they should have, some sort of a decent long life, enough to the point where once they didn't look, very good, we would change them anyway. So, but they're and some have a little bit of relief to them, and some are, more of a flat edge. It depends on the exact logo, which one's going on which, and they all have their details listed, per each sign. But generally, they're very durable. They're meant to stand up to the winds that we have running down that corridor there, and the brackets are also really strong, heavy brackets that'll be secured to the building well, again, to stand up to the winds without any danger of the signs falling on top of anyone.
Okay. And are you able to keep them all at the same height with the different facades of the building? Or...
Right. They're definitely going to be small refinements as we actually place the signs, but they'll be the same height off the ground. Yes.
So John, I'm going to ask you a question here, jump in. If they're all the same height off the ground, which is, I think you said 8'6", which I'm guessing is about where the Prairie sign is. But the brackets seem like they're going to be considerably higher. Is there going to be some sort of a chain arrangement to between the sign and the bracket to get that down to 8'6"?
No, the brackets will be placed so that the bottom of the sign is at 8'6".
Well, then that's going to be, I don't know. Without measuring that, it doesn't look like it's going to be too high. But
It'll be the way that we've instructed the company to install them is at the exact same height above the ground that the Prairie sign is, so that it looks consistent as you look at the building.
Because I know the Prairie sign is on chains. Isn't it, Matt? Matt?
Yes, I was muted. Yeah, there's some links to their sign.
I don't know. It's just as long as there's a uniform height off the sidewalk is what I'm getting at. And
Agree. They will certainly be done that way.
okay. Who hasn't spoken yet? Art? Tim?
Yeah, I think the signs look very nice. And I think you guys are talking about all the same things that I was considering. You don't want a whole bunch of signs along the street, but you want to be able to see each restaurant or company that's that's there. So I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Art, what do you think?
Excuse me. To me, it seems fine. Just a point of clarification. All three of the business, the pizza, the bicycle shop, and the sandwich shop, all enter through the same door.
Right.
That's right. They do. They enter through the same main entrance, and then once you get inside the building, it's kind of in that elevator alcove area. Then there's a double door entrance into that same area.
Okay. And the other thing is on the wine and beer sign for the JDR, there's a bracket currently in that location that's circled on the photo. And, there's a string of light bulbs and stuff attached to that.
Right.
Are those brackets going to be removed? Or?
Yeah, that bracket in this location, this would replace that one. We wouldn't have them both together.
Okay. That's, I think that you know, I see nothing wrong with them. And, you know, really agree with the rest of the comments. Other than the multiple signs, but, you know, there are a number of businesses in that one location, and, you know, you could do a much larger sign, I suppose, but I don't know.
Make sure that we space it out so that it looks proportional to the rest of the building. We'll go out there and we'll definitely make sure that they're not just stacked on top of each other. So as you look at them, when you're looking down the street, they look like they're evenly spaced.
Okay, anybody else have any other comments?
Will Innovasi have one of these as well, or just these?
We decided not to do Innovasi because Innovasi, the entrance for the restaurant, has the small green awning above it now that says Innovasi on it already. In addition, we thought it looked out of place to put one on the corner of the building, kind of sticking out, which would be the most natural place to put one. We either thought it was duplicative or that it didn't really make sense in the corner, so we decided not to do an Innovasi sign the way it is now. We weren't really excited about the way it came out.
Okay.
So John, I have a question about the location for the wine and beer sign. I understand you're kind of putting it as at the end of the building.
Yeah, we were thinking about actually moving it down to the other side of it where it was above the doorway.
Yeah. That's the only, I mean, I don't mind it at the end of the building, except it's not where the door is.
Yeah, it certainly makes more sense to have it above the door. Yeah, we had that discussion yesterday morning.
Yeah, and going back to the where the half and half and bonk, and now the cycles sign is, I guess I have a problem with one at the east side where there's doesn't really have any relationship to how you get in there. It kind of implies that you go in that door, which is actually a stairway.
Right, agreed.
And I don't know.
We could either move it to the middle of the window, or we could move it towards the west a little more, and maybe have one of the signs on one side of the doorway, and then the other sign on the other side of the doorway.
Well, that's a possibility, I suppose. That could get confusing too. That one might need a little bit thinking about.
Yeah, we'll consider it for sure, and we'll lay it out in a way that it looks.
Yeah.
But I understand your concern. We'll certainly address it before we actually do the installation.
Just to address the whole group here. This is probably a precedent-setting thing. I can see these going around the corner and going to the other shops down there, and so we need to think about if that's what we want to do, and if so, is there going to be any uniformity to them, at least to the brackets? You know, some of that is. I've got a picture that I took of at Martha's Vineyard, looking down a hill on the street, and every one of the shops, and there must be only about 15 feet apart, has a sign sticking out, and it's kind of charming in a way, but it's very cluttered too. So you know, we may want to think ahead of the curve on this one before it starts coming up all over town, or all over the rest of the spaces where it could.
I agree. We were considering a couple things when we thought about this. One is that we really like the way that John's sign came out, and so we wanted to replicate that so that the building itself has a consistent theme. But also, I would love to get all of the plastic A-frame signs off the sidewalk. I know that our citizens don't like walking their kids and dogs around them, and these certainly have a much more polished, professional look than I think that they do. So I think there are some positive long-term benefits of it.
So I'm just saying for the rest of the board that we need to think about, you know, how we might want to address this in the future.
Yeah, and I'm still concerned about allowing more than one sign per storefront, even if there's multiple businesses. I understand the want to advertise every single business within a storefront, but to me, that's the precedence that I'd be more scared of than other ones, is that allowing multiple, I think it's opening up a precedence that we may come back to bite us.
Yeah, I understand your concern, Matt. What do you think if we did, I just thought about this. What if we did 2 of the businesses on one side of the sign and 1 on the other? Or, I mean, I don't really want to make one size larger than the other, and I'm still concerned about making them too small, but, we could do 1 business on one side and then the other 2 on the other side. Would that be something that would remove, one side? Obviously, this is stuff that's created by me because we do a lot of things in one location, but is there, do you think that that's something that'll alleviate some of that concern?
Well, it's not so much that what's on either side of the sign, it's simply the number of, we have a lot of limitations on signs per storefront, and we have to be careful with this, creating multiple signs we don't look at it as per business, but per storefront.
Per storefront. Yeah, I agree. That's what I was thinking. If we did 1 business on one side and then the other 2 businesses on the other side, we would have 1 sign instead of 2.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm just concerned about number of signs, not information on the signs. I would, think that might be the way to go here, just so we don't end up someone coming in with 4 businesses in the storefront and now there's 4 separate signs. It could get out of control.
Yeah, especially with that particular entrance, because I think there's 6 or 7 different businesses that actually use that entrance.
Right.
I could see what John just mentioned. I could also see another alternative if you did the sign where you've got 2 on one side. If you did half and half and took the one that's bonk and move it down or up, you'd have room to put the wheel for the bicycles above or below it.
Yeah,
I could
do that too.
That could
Yeah,
be.
agree.
I like your idea of putting 1 on one side and 2 on the other.
Okay, so we'll do that. We'll work on a design where we've got 1 sign that has all those 3 things on it. So we'll reduce it from 4 signs total to 3.
And I also like the idea of having the sign for these 3 for where Bonk and the other 2 restaurants are be closer to the entrance door rather than the other side.
I agree. Yeah, which would be even easier to accomplish if we had one instead of 2 signs. So we'll work to do that. We'll find some way to whether it's doubling up on top and bottom or back to front, but we'll condense that from 2 signs down to 1.
One other question, do we need to consider the window signs?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, the 2 signs that are on the left and right hand side of the 3 windows we have pictured are already existing. This would be adding a slightly smaller one than the 2 that are there now, just for the half and half in the middle of it, so that each window has its own, it represents its own concept.
Well, let's move on to that. We'll do them all at once. Any thoughts on that? Consistent with everything else that's in the other 2.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with window signs. I think that's.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that either. They look proportional, so.
Well, the drawing, the hub and cycle and the bonk look larger in the photograph than they do in the drawing. So I was wondering, is the half and half going to be proportionally the right size as is shown, or is it going to be slightly larger as the existing apparently is from what the photograph looks like?
What photograph are we referring to?
The photograph that you see with the metal signs. You've got a photo of the existing storefront.
Ah, I see.
And look at that cycle in that window. That is larger in the photograph than it is in the drawing.
Right, it is, but it shouldn't be.
So I'm concerned that the half and half sign is not going to be blown up in real life.
No, in fact, our goal with that was to make it smaller and I don't know, maybe those are larger. Well, we've got it, yeah, I would say that we would keep the half and half smaller than what the cycle is now. Our goal with that was, and even in the picture that I sent, it is a little bit smaller, so that it doesn't take up as much of the window as what the cycle does.
Okay.
Good catch. I would agree.
Can I go back? I'm sorry. Can I go back to the blade sign real quick, and then I'll be done with it? Just we haven't. If we look at it, kind of just as an overall composition, I like the idea of putting the blade sign centered on the storefront instead of over the door. I just think as a rhythm throughout that, through those stores, it's nice to have that kind of symmetrical relationship, with Prairie and then this kind of balancing, instead of that being off to over the entry. That's I know it's subjective, but it feels like that's a rhythm that feels right.
We can certainly do that. For the half and half and the bonk sign, that's pretty straightforward. We'll do it right over the center window. On the JDR sign, on the window of the doorway, those two windows that are on that side, there's a light above it.
Yeah.
Can we maybe that one, we can edge that one above the door?
Yeah, I'm just thinking it was just for those two, just because
Okay.
they're symmetrical structures.
Yeah.
Those are set up the same as if we're trying to create, in a unison throughout it. Yeah, and I agree with the JDR to go over the door. I think get it off that column that probably doesn't violate it anyways. I think that's
we'll do that. We'll put it right above the center window.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think the other thing is that where the colonial entrance is kind of a precious place, and it starts to get maybe lopsided when you put that sign over there,
Yeah,
even though that's where the door is.
Yeah, the window makes more sense.
Anything else, people? We ready to make a motion? Do you have any other questions for John?
I will make a motion, I guess. I move to approve the signage as submitted with the following revisions: that at 77 East Scranton, it's reduced from 2 to 1 sign, and that Durasi will figure out what goes on either side, but it'll have the 3 businesses, and that will be centered over the storefronts in direct relationship to Prairie's. And then the JDR sign, wine and beer, will be located centered over the entry to that establishment. And we haven't really talked about the other door, but would we move the other door then centered over the door to other door?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's better there.
Okay.
And just to clarify, that motion is to recommend approval to the village board
Recommend,
due to having the one signing code exemption. Yep,
To recommend. Thank you.
yep, sure.
Okay, so there we have a motion. Any comments on the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, Mike, roll call.
Okay. Member Dittmer,
Aye.
Member Kerouac,
Aye.
Member Dahlman,
Aye.
Member Stradiff,
Aye.
Member Cottrell,
Aye.
Member Callahan,
Aye.
and Chair Hunter.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes 7-0. And John, I can have that recommendation on the village board agenda for the next meeting on the 14th.
That sounds great. I literally just typed an email asking you when it was going to be.
Okay.
All right.
Beat me to it, Mike. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, John.
It was great comments, good feedback.
All right. Okay, thanks, John. Okay, moving on. Mike, it's your show with all this stuff.
Okay, sure. So ready to talk about updating building codes. In the process by our code is that the The ABR, we can have as many, of course, preliminary discussions as we want, but then eventually hold a public hearing, try to get some input from residents and contractors and architects in town. If there are any others left other than us. Yeah, but and then make a recommendation to the village board on code adoption. We're currently on the 2015 edition of the International Codes. Since then, the 2018 and 2021 editions have been published. 2021 edition came out about a year ago. I'm suggesting here that we go to the 2018 edition, not just because the village bought the books a year ago in anticipation of doing this a little earlier, but more importantly, I think when the code has just been adopted, there have been no classes, no seminars on it. Some of the supplemental materials explaining the codes are not yet available. I think it's nice to be on a code that's been out for a few years, and there's some chance that architects and contractors have actually taken a class or done a job that was under that code and have actually learned what's on it. So I think maybe being one edition back is a little more ideal than something that was just published. So suggesting that. And then as far as other things here, there's really two priorities in looking at our local amendments. One, to make sure they're all clear, and I have a suggestion I'll mention for one thing we want to clarify, and two, to take a look at and see whether all our old amendments are really necessary, or if we can eliminate some and stay closer to what the national code requires. So to take a look in the first category to clarify in any of our existing amendments, or see whether any need to be clarified. One thing important that's coming up is that in the early 2000s, I don't know, maybe around 2007, 2008, the village had adopted requirements that existing commercial buildings that are unsprinklered become sprinklered. I think the deadline for that was originally 2010, and later building owners pointed out that they hadn't been given much time to comply, and that deadline was pushed back to January 1st of 2026, which is what our code says now. And that's, obviously something important that our fire department is very much looking forward to, the day when all the commercial buildings and multifamily buildings in town are sprinklered. As churches are exempt, and obviously single-family homes are exempt. New ones are being sprinkled, but old ones are not required to change, of course, for single-family homes. One thing that hasn't entirely been spelled out in the past in the code on this is exactly which structures do not count as buildings as far as, this code section that says all buildings need to be sprinklered. We do have a spreadsheet put together back prior to 2010 to track, who needed to get in compliance with this. And notably, the spreadsheet doesn't list things like the gazebo on the village green or the lakefront shelters for the park district. Even doesn't list the greenhouses for Mariani, things like that. So obviously they were not intended to be to have a requirement to install sprinklers in those buildings, and I think we probably should spell that out in our in our rewrite of our local amendments, so that's clear and no one questions why we're not requiring it for those structures and what we do for other things. And then I'll give you guys a chance to talk and give me your thoughts in a minute, but just to, I guess, conclude with a few final thoughts. In the context of eliminating or reducing some of our existing amendments to the national codes, the national codes don't require many smoke detectors in commercial buildings if you're sprinklered, because the fire sprinkler system is essentially a big heat detector. You know, if there's a fire that's hot enough to set off a sprinkler head, obviously the flow detector sets off the fire alarm. So they figure they can give you the forgiveness on putting smoke detectors everywhere and only require them in a few select locations, like over the fire alarm panel. We have, by local amendment, actually required both in new construction. That's why if you go into Target, you know, you'll see sprinkler heads and smoke detectors all over the ceiling. But I think, you know, I think I'm going to suggest to us that the national codes are written the way they are for a reason, and we probably don't need to put smoke detectors everywhere if we have a fire sprinkler system throughout the building. And but I think I will suggest that we'll do you know, what Lake Forest does, and still require them for things like janitors' closets and storage rooms and you know, other places where it's determined necessary by the code official. And, you know, the logic for Lake Forest's amendment in that regard is that, you know, someplace like a janitor's closet, you could have a slow smoldering fire, such as, you know, spontaneous combustion from cleaning rags that could smolder for a while and not reach the point where it's a hot fire that sets off a sprinkler system right away. So that it's good to have a few places like that still have the smoke detectors. And then a final note here, as many of you know, there's some things that are not the national codes, that are state mandates, like the Illinois Plumbing Code. I'm not proposing any changes to that, because we have to get any changes approved by the state, and they're not, you know, exactly thrilled that we have local amendments, et cetera. Hard to get that approved. So, and not that I really need anything to be changed in that chapter anyway. And you know, similarly, the Illinois Accessibility Code is a state mandate. We don't really have the ability to change. And the Energy Conservation Code is also adopted these days by state mandate, with limitations on changing, and that is already, the state has already adopted the 2018, and will probably go to 2021 later this summer. And with that, I will, so I guess final note on the process, by next meeting, I expect to have a complete redlined copy of all our code amendments with the new changes in them, for you guys to read, and feel free to get as detailed or you know, not get super detailed as you wish on your reading of those. And then you know, hopefully we could plan for the public hearing on it for the April meeting. And with that, I'll turn it over to you guys for your questions and comments.
Mike, in the past, when we've done this code review, we haven't done it all at once. Are you suggesting we do it all at once?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of sections to it.
What's that?
Some of it goes very fast, and some of it all of a sudden leads into a big discussion.
Right. Yeah, I think doing it all at once is a good idea. You know, I don't think it's really going to be that many changes overall. Just a few here and there, really.
Okay,
And if we don't get through it, we can always continue it to the next meeting.
that's what I'm saying. We kind of had to do that a couple of times.
Yeah. Right.
And some of the way back when we talked about sprinklers and things, that was pretty contentious. So.
Right. Yep. Those are true comments.
Okay. Anything else? Does anybody have any other comments?
Yeah, I guess I have a question on it. When I buy software, I usually skip an upgrade. In other words, if they came up with one last year, I'll skip this year and I'll upgrade next year. And so I wonder about going to the 2018 code instead of the 21 code. I could almost see just waiting another 6 to 12 months and then going to the 2021 code and just skip the 2018 one altogether.
Well, Neil, I've been sort of thinking along the same lines as you, except I was thinking that we would go to the 2018 code and then possibly skip the 2021 and just go to 2024 at some point. I think among the reasons to go to the 2018 code right now, Lake Forest is, and we not only share some staff with them doing some plan review and inspections for us, but a lot of contractors and architects work in both towns. It's kind of nice to be on the same code edition, but also it's a convenient time to clarify and change these sections that I'm talking about regarding sprinklers and fire smoke detectors and all that.
It does make sense to have us be on the same code.
Right. I think later this year we want to send out reminders to all the building owners that still have buildings to install sprinkler systems by 2026 and to remind them of that. And it would be nice to have the code perfectly clear on every point, and also nice to be able to let them know that you're not required to maintain smoke detectors all over your ceiling if you install the sprinklers. So that's an advantage there.
Is there many of those buildings left, Mike, that haven't been brought up to speed sprinkler wise?
There's not a huge number, and I'm sorry, I forget, I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me, but I think, I want to say it started with like a spreadsheet of 30 or something back in 2007 or 2008, and we're down to like half of them got their sprinklers installed and half haven't. So, I mean, it's more than a dozen, I think, there.
Are they all over in the park?
Yeah, generally. Some of them are the De Marie area up on 41 by the entrance to 41. And
Okay.
the industrial park,
It's empty. Some of it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, are we done?
If nobody else has any more questions or comments on that, then I think we could be ready for a motion to adjourn.
Okay, somebody make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Good for you, Art.
Well, it's to adjourn.
Yeah.
And this is the one vote in a virtual meeting we can do by
Just by voice
general
vote.
acclamation, voice vote. Yeah.
Okay, I agree.
So all in favor?
agree.
Aye.
I
All right.
Okay.
Okay, next time maybe we'll all be at the table.
Yep. Sounds good.
No.
See you
Thank
all
you.
next time.
Hey, guys.
Take care.
Hey, guys.
Good seeing you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Night.